Have you noticed how the mind works hardest not during effort itself, but while imagining how that effort might turn out? You begin something sincerely. You show up. You apply yourself. And almost immediately, the mind leans forward. Will this work? What if it doesn't? What will this lead to? The body is doing the task, but the mind is already living in the result. This split is subtle but costly, because effort by itself is rarely the problem. What exhausts us is carrying the future while acting in the present. In daily life, this shows up everywhere. You work on something important, but your attention keeps drifting to evaluation. How it will be received, whether it will be enough, what it might say about you. The task becomes tense, not because it is difficult, but because it is loaded. Effort becomes anxious effort. We often assume this anxiety is necessary. That worrying about results keeps us responsible. That detachment would make us careless. But anxiety does not improve effort. It fragments it. It pulls energy away from the work and pours it into anticipation. You can feel this difference clearly. When you are fully absorbed in a task, time moves quietly. The body knows what to do. When results dominate the mind, there is hurry, tightness, a constant internal checking. The work may still get done, but it costs more than it should. Most of us learned early that outcomes matter. Grades, approval, success, recognition. So we learned to tie effort to result. If I do this well, something good will happen. If I fail, something bad will follow. This conditioning runs deep. Even when we tell ourselves to just do our best, the mind quietly asks, and then what? In the Geeta, this tension is named with unusual clarity. Not as a command, not as a moral rule, but as an observation about how the mind suffers. Arjuna's anxiety is not only about action, it is about consequence. He imagines outcomes. He foresees loss. He projects responsibility far beyond the moment. What Krishna points toward is not indifference to results, but freedom from anxiety about them. This distinction matters. Effort without concern would be careless. Effort without anxiety is different. It means you take responsibility for what you can do and release what you cannot control. This sounds simple, but in practice, it is one of the hardest shifts, because the mind wants reassurance. It wants to know that effort will be rewarded, that sacrifice will be worth it, that pain will lead somewhere meaningful. When reassurance is absent, anxiety steps in. But notice this carefully. Anxiety about results does not come from caring too much. It comes from trying to control what is not yours. The future, others' reactions, circumstances beyond your reach. Effort belongs to you. Outcomes do not. This line is clear in theory, but blurred in experience. At work, you may prepare thoroughly, communicate clearly, show up consistently, and still, things may not unfold as expected. When anxiety is present, failure feels personal. When effort is clean, failure becomes information. The difference is not in what happens, but in how the mind relates to it. Effort without anxiety feels steady. You focus on the step in front of you, not on the entire staircase. You respond to what is required now, not to imagined futures. This does not mean you stop planning. It means planning no longer dominates presence. In relationships, this shift is especially visible. You speak honestly, but you are not attached to how the other person responds. You listen fully, but you do not manage their emotions. When results matter too much, conversation becomes strategy. When effort is clean, conversation becomes presence. Anxiety about results often hides behind responsibility. We tell ourselves, if I don't worry, I won't care enough. But caring and worrying are not the same. Caring is attentive. Worrying is restless. Caring keeps you engaged with the moment. Worrying pulls you away from it. You can see this in simple tasks. When learning something new, progress happens faster when attention stays with the process. When the mind constantly checks for success, learning slows. Not because ability is lacking, but because attention is divided. Effort without anxiety allows learning, growth, and correction. Mistakes are seen early. Adjustments happen naturally. Anxiety delays this. It makes mistakes feel threatening, so the mind avoids seeing them clearly. In the Geeta, the emphasis is never on guaranteeing outcomes. It is on integrity of action, doing what is yours to do fully, without dragging the future into the present. This creates a different quality of life. You may still feel tired, but it is honest tiredness. You may still feel disappointed, but not defeated, because you know where your responsibility ended. There is relief in this clarity. Not relief that everything will work out, but relief from carrying what was never yours. Over time, effort without anxiety changes how identity forms. You stop defining yourself by results alone. You stop measuring worth by outcomes. You begin to value presence, care, and sincerity. This does not make you passive. It makes you resilient. When success comes, you receive it without clinging. When failure comes, you face it without collapse, because your sense of self was not built on prediction. This is especially important during uncertainty. When outcomes are unclear, anxious effort becomes unbearable. Clean effort remains possible. You do what you can today. You leave tomorrow where it belongs. This is not denial. It is precision. The Geeta does not suggest that results are irrelevant. They matter in the world, but they are not the place where peace lives. Peace lives in alignment between intention and action. When those two match, the mind rests more easily. Even when life does not cooperate, effort without anxiety does not arrive as a dramatic insight. It arrives as fewer inner arguments, less self-judgment, less mental rehearsal, less fear around evaluation. You still care, you still strive, but the striving is quieter. The energy that was leaking into worry returns to the task itself, and something unexpected happens. The work often improves, not because you tried harder, but because you were more present. Perhaps this is why this idea sits at the heart of the Geeta, not as philosophy, but as a practical observation of the human mind. That suffering increases when effort and anxiety travel together. And that freedom begins when effort stands on its own, doing what is yours to do, fully, sincerely, and allowing results to arrive without making them carry your peace. Not because outcomes don't matter, but because peace was never meant to depend on them.